Hello, everyone. Welcome and thank you for being here with us today. My name is James McCarty. I am the Associate Director of Admission here at the Johns Hopkins School of Education. I'm also the point person, if you will, as far as admissions and recruitment goes for our Masters of Education in the Teaching Professions, also known as the Teaching Well program. So you'll hear us refer to it as Teaching Well probably through the majority of our time together today. I'm excited to be here with you. In just a moment, I'm going to let my colleague, Dr. Debbie Hollick, introduce herself. But I'll begin really quick with just sort of an overview. Today, we're going to share an overview of our brand new Teaching Well program. We do want to try to make this as interactive as possible. So if you are not familiar with Zoom, at the bottom of your screen, there is a Q&A button. Please feel free to submit any questions that you might have throughout the program today, and we're happy to answer those questions as we go through. Just for both Dr. Hollick and myself to get a little bit of a better idea and understanding of who's with us today, if you would like to reach out and just share some basic information about yourself, name, where home is for you, and why you're interested in this program, your aspirations and interests with looking to become an educator or further your profession in education. Again, we would love to have just some background context to try to tailor today's presentation if possible. So feel free to submit anything in the Q&A that you would like. We would love to have that background information. Again, we'll give a brief overview of the program, talk about admissions, financial aid, and again, have plenty of time for Q&A as we go through. So I will pass things off to Dr. Debbie Hollick to say hello and introduce herself.
Thanks, James. Good evening, everybody, or afternoon, or I guess it could be morning if you're in Hawaii. I'm Debbie Hollick, and I'm the director of the Teacher Development Partnerships here at the School of Education. I currently run a Master's of Science degree for teachers who are in the classroom, and then we're adding the MED to our kind of partnership load. So really excited to have all of you here. Do feel free to pop your information in. It helps. I know it seems like we're like super chill and cool that we can't see you, but it does help to know that you're out there. We can see your names, Ava and Brandy, but we don't necessarily have any context for you. So please do feel free to share. We are humans who like to talk to other humans. So no AI today. Thanks.
Thank you. Thank you, Debbie. So just to kick things off, I'd like to give a brief introduction to the School of Education and to Johns Hopkins. Johns Hopkins University as a whole was America's first research institution. And I think that history that we have really resonates not only, with us, but also this program. You are learning at a top tier you were learning at a top tier institution globally across the world. And I think there's a lot of benefits to the research that we're conducting, but also the network and the opportunities and expertise that you'll get as a student with some of our faculty members. Johns Hopkins has been offering education courses since the early 1900s. And the School of Education, as we know it today, came into existence in the early 2000s. So we have a long-standing history teaching education classes at Johns Hopkins for over 120 years at this point. So I do want to take just a brief moment and share a little bit about the program and overview, and give a shout out to many of my colleagues that couldn't be here with us today that have put in many hours of work into this program. We're really excited about the Teaching Well program because essentially what our administration has done is said, what are some of the biggest issues in education today facing educators, and how can we establish a program to help break down some of those barriers and to better support our students to be better educators, and also have a focus on being lifelong educators. How can we help you to break into the field of education, but also stay within the field of education? So as we go through today, you'll hear that the focus of this program is to address some of the biggest needs. And for us locally in the city of Baltimore, I think there's a big focus around STEM education. So this program in its current form, we are piloting, looking solely at in the STEM education field. There is a hope in the future that we will branch out into other areas. But I do want to be transparent up front that the focus is for this initial cohort, that the focus is in STEM education. And again, another area of support is financial. There, we will get into much more depth into this as we go through today, but essentially this program, there is a 5-year commitment in total, but as a student that is agreeing to that commitment, there is a huge financial aspect to benefit you all as students. That includes essentially tuition and fees being fully supported through the Baltimore City School District. So for your first year, you are in our program learning and studying as a Hopkins student, going through field placement experience. And then years 2 through 5, you are in the Baltimore City School District or one of our other partnering institutions teaching. So in total, it is a 5-year commitment, but for that commitment, there is a huge financial assistance that's offered to you to again help to lighten the load financially in that capacity. And lastly, I think there's a focus on just the teacher emotional support, both in and outside of the classroom. How can we support you through your journey as an educator to, when things go awry, when an issue occurs, how can we be there at Hopkins, but also through your institution that you're working at within Baltimore City School District? How can we create a network of support for you? So really at its core, I think that's kind of the focus of this new Teaching Well program. And again, we're excited because this is the inaugural cohort that will begin this summer 2024. So again, some of the colleagues on the screen here, this has been really a school-wide and even to some extent a university-wide collaborative effort between many of the individuals that you see on the screen here, but also again as far out as the university at large. So I will pass things off now to Debbie, to Dr. Hollick, to share a little bit more about the Teaching Well program.
Thanks, James. It's good to see several of you, I guess, at least by name. Thanks for joining us tonight. One of the things that I think is important that you know about me before I kind of launch into just the program, though you definitely are here for the program, that I was a teacher for a long time. I came to Baltimore to teach and I went to Hopkins to support that effort. And I ended up teaching in the city of Baltimore and then becoming an administrator for almost 15 years before I got bit by the higher ed bug and came over to support teachers themselves as opposed to being in classrooms with kids and parents and communities. So when I think about this degree, I think about all the years of work that the people who trained me and supported me did, and then the other work we've done even since then in the 20 plus years since I started teaching, that we've done and what we have learned since then. James mentioned that we are one of the first research institutions, and that is really important because everything we do, and I suppose you might expect everything everybody does in higher ed, but everything we do is based in what is being shown to be the best practice. So one of the things James also mentioned was this commitment. And the reason for the commitment is because we're preparing you to be teachers for life. Even if you don't stay in the classroom for life, if you grow into leadership like I did as an administrator, or if you grow into being teacher leaders yourself, so teaching other teachers, having a foundation of those first years of teaching is really critical to deeply understanding the schools, communities, and then the systems that serve and support them. So as we went through to write this program, I can't tell you the amount of hours of research and reading and drafting and writing and coming back to talk to each other as faculty and going to the research to really look at what others are doing and what's been successful for our kids in our communities, especially here in Maryland. And we focused then on making sure we were not just making teachers who understood pedagogy, though pedagogy is important. Knowing how to teach is important. Knowing content is important. I was an English literature teacher. I taught Beowulf my first semester as a teacher. And if you've never read Beowulf, I will just say maybe you're lucky. It was an interesting dynamic, but knowing my content made it possible for me to be able to support students to understand that. We could have a different conversation about whether students need to talk about Beowulf anymore, but that's for a different day and a different time. So as we were developing this, we thought really seriously about the people we were developing, not just the teachers we were developing. And we also thought about how those people would intersect with the people in their classroom. Students are humans. They come with different backgrounds and different bags of tricks and different thoughts and feelings. And we know that students don't come with blank slates, and you can no longer stand, like they say, a stage on the stage anymore. That isn't the way that students learn, and maybe probably shouldn't have been the way they learned for a long time. So we are looking to help you develop as people who are supporting other people. And so we are thinking deeply about knowing how to teach, knowing what to teach, and knowing who you are in the sphere of teaching. Thanks, James. There are a lot of bubbles here. The bubble slide always cracks me up a little bit. So the model here is just showing you the ways that we looked at the work and what we really emphasize. So I won't spend too much time here other than to say it is fundamental that you understand what you're teaching and how to teach it. If you don't know what you're teaching and you don't know how to teach it, your kids aren't going to learn. And the reality is that for as much as relationship building and connection in the classroom probably is the most important element, the sister most important is actually knowing what you're teaching. Because if you've got a classroom full of kids who love you and you connect with, but none of them know how to read or none of them can score on the SAT, you aren't impacting their trajectory or supporting their development as a child in your classroom. So we start, of course, with this like core skills of a teacher, and then really married it with this lilac bubble of like, what does it really mean to teach in a school? And so for the first year in the program, while you're going through your coursework for the MED, you're in schools almost every day. And the point there is to make sure that while you're taking these classes and while you're learning, you're student teaching, you're with kids, you're with a mentor teacher, you're with faculty members who are actually helping you in real time work through what it looks like to do classroom management, what it looks like to teach, of course, in this case, maybe biology content or chemistry content. You are heavily mentored. So in the first year, you're having faculty support, you're having your mentor teacher in your classroom. And then even in the out years, this is what makes this program so groundbreaking. There are no programs who say, we are going to hold you for these 4 years, because we know that the first 5 years of teaching for a teacher are critical. They can make or break their entire trajectory in their career path. So we say, you know what? It's not enough that we help you get a job or that we help you find a space that's right for you in the teaching world. We want to be with you throughout this support to make sure that we end up helping you to be the teacher that you want to be. We are going to be also using teacher support structures so that you are kind of in the middle of our little sphere. That's why this image is kind of a dual piece. You are the part of teaching well that is at the center. Additionally, in the last 15 years, if you haven't read anything on life design, I strongly encourage you. It was started, the concept as we know it now is really started out of Stanford's Graduate School of Education. The concept is, and then became its own center, I should say that, now has its own life design center in Stanford's campus. The concept is, a lot of times we teach people to know how to do something. You major in marketing, you can market. You major in communications, maybe you can write speeches. I majored in English literature and ed, I would be an English teacher. That's what we talk about in colleges a lot of time. But what we often miss are these intangible things like, how do I look at something that's happening in my life and understand what it means to me now and what it might be teaching me in the future? And that concept of life design, of being thoughtful, not every minute of the day, not everything is going to lead to this like greater life experience. Otherwise we would just be too overwhelmed to actually exist. But how do I know when something's happening that's telling me something? And once I'm hearing something, what am I going to do with that information? This comes up a ton for teachers after their second year of teaching, especially, what am I going to do? Am I going to stay in teaching? Am I going to dig a little deeper and maybe get the next level of professional certification? Am I going to go for national board certification? And these are the types of skills that are really important to have when you start your journey, so that when you get to the point where you're asking yourself hard questions, you have the muscle memory to actually act on answering them. So that's why everything we do is actually built on the life design curriculum. Hopkins has the Imagine Center. If you haven't already been there, it's a beautiful spot. You're welcome to join us there for an in-person session we're having in another week or so. And because Hopkins knows that crafting a life isn't just about having a college degree. Like, that is only now the starting point for those conversations. And then finally, the most exciting part, I think, for the first time in the School of Ed's like history, is that we went to Hopkins and we said, you know what? If Hopkins is amazing, and we think it is, I mean, like, we wouldn't be here if we didn't, then why wouldn't we use the expertise we have in undergrad to make sure that the content we're really offering is what should be offered, is what is being said is the best content. So marrying our pedagogical roots, our commitment to our community, our understanding of life design, and the abject expertise that is undeniable at Hopkins is what makes this program so special. Thanks, James. So just to make clear what James has already kind of highlighted, and then James, I know I'm talking a ton, so I'll toss it back to you after this one, I promise. The folks who would walk into teaching well and be ready to do this have some element of STEM in their background. This is not a mandate. You don't have to have minored in STEM, but it is important that you have taken some coursework in STEM. If you right now are like, I don't know how many courses I've taken in STEM or whether I'm qualified, we have a process for that. We actually have a link that we can provide you. All you have to do is poke James either during this session or right after. We have a form you can fill out, and it's a 5-minute form, and then we can take a look and see whether or not it makes sense for you to pursue the application process. Also, we need you to believe in kids. A lot of times teachers get into teaching for maybe social justice reasons. That's awesome. Social justice, I'm pro social justice. My doctoral work is in equity and education. I get it. It's the work I do every day. It's not going to be enough to get you out of bed every day to go teach. You need to be ready to be with kids. And being with kids is like 8 hours a day, every day, right? So I'm not saying that to scare you. I'm saying that you need to be ready to be with kids. And it's really important to think that through before you start walking into an environment where that's a minimum expectation. If you get really excited about STEM subjects, that would be nice, you know? I mean, the idea of teaching fractions to middle schoolers is exciting to you. Come on with it. That was like the worst nightmare for me, but bring it. I'm interested in it. And then finally, the School of Ed is rooted in and connected to tons and tons of alums that want the best for their communities, who have themselves, before you finish their work at Hopkins, use the expertise here to propel themselves forward. And Sean, who you see on the screen there, is our director of constituent engagement, which basically just means he's our alumni guy, and he is the best. So if you in this process are like, you know, I'm debating between this program and this program, don't hesitate to reach out to James to have a conversation about some of those application or admissions pieces, but also don't hesitate to reach out to me for content or pedagogy. Reach out to Sean for alumni. Maybe you need to hear from folks who have done work at SOE. Obviously, this is our brand new program for here, but a lot of us have been doing this work for a long time, and be more than happy to connect you with other SOE folks who have found great success in the classroom and beyond. Good job.
Thank you so much, Dr. Hollick. I think, you know, if you get one takeaway from our presentation today, you are fully supported from the first conversation that you have with us until long after you graduate. So yes, I cannot stress that enough. After the presentation today, everyone will be getting a follow-up email tomorrow with some information, some different resources for the Teaching Well program. But I would love to connect with all of you individually. I know that, you know, a program that is as complex as this one is, I think it's important to kind of discuss, you know, how does my particular circumstances and situation kind of fit into everything. and I would be delighted to have that conversation with each and every one of you. So keep an eye on your email within the next 24 hours, and we can schedule a time to chat and connect. Just because it's fresh in my mind, again, to reiterate what Dr. Hollick said, February 6th, we will be hosting an in-person event on campus. So if you are local to the Baltimore area, it will be at the Imagine Center, essentially the nucleus of life design here at Johns Hopkins. The presentation will be very similar. So, that might not be the reason to attend, but the networking and connecting with each of us in person on campus, I think will be a phenomenal opportunity. So if you are able to attend that evening, February 6th, again, we can chat more, and I'm happy to provide you with that information. Kind of just giving a more of a specific overview of the Teaching Well program. As you can see here on the screen, the entirety is a 39 credit master's degree. You'll be a full-time student, and courses are offered in person on campus here in Baltimore, Maryland. It is a total of 4 semesters, so we are only offering a summer admission start because of that sequence of courses. So the beginning cohort will be this summer, 2024. And as I mentioned again, and I'll get into even more depth into it in a few slides here, there is full tuition support as well as a stipend for your total commitment to both us at Hopkins for this, the academic component, but also with our partners through the Baltimore City School District for that teaching component afterwards. And you can see on your screen the areas of approved certification to be able to teach between secondary as well as middle school. So those are listed there. Again, to delve into to jump in depth even more as far as that curriculum structure, I'll stop talking just for a second so everyone can kind of just read over the screen, take everything in as far as what's covered during each of those 4 semesters. We really have been very in depth at trying to layer both academic support, student teaching placement, life design, all at different times throughout this program. So it is not that like, okay, I'm in classes and then that piece is done and then I jump into student teaching and then I move on to, teaching in the Baltimore City School District. We really tried to layer and scaffold a framework, if you will, that you are gaining all of these experiences simultaneously to help them kind of balance each other out through your experience and through this journey. So there's that. As far as certification goes, again, you can see that listed on your screen. There is coaching offered every single year throughout the entirety of this program. You'll see that you go through a capstone course. There's internship. So again, I know that this just reiterates what I just shared on the last slide, but again, there was very deliberate thought process into the layering of the curriculum and experiences in this program so that again, you are fully supported in every way possible from day one until graduation and beyond. Jumping in with some of the admission requirements, I think, before I even talk about this screen, again, just to reiterate what Dr. Hollick had shared, I think the most important piece is if you're interested, you're looking to move forward after today, schedule a time to meet. I would love to have a conversation with each of you, and I really think that is the first step in this process. You can move forward to complete the application and go through these steps. But again, I think for each individual circumstance, it's a little easier and enlightening to have that conversation with myself to kind of talk through your goals, your interests before starting that admissions and application process. After we have that conversation, you can see here on the screen again, it is essentially what I would consider a fairly standard admission process for a graduate program. There's an online application form that you'll complete. You'll submit transcripts from all post-secondary institutions that you've attended. Those can be sent directly from the home institution to us. You'll complete a brief essay or personal statement, which is roughly between 500 and 1,000 words, talking about your passion for education. Why are you interested in our program? Not only how would you be a good fit for our program, but how is this Teaching Well program a good fit for you and your interests as a future educator? Submitting a resume or CV, 2 letters of recommendation, and there's also a virtual interview that will take place with the program, with some of the faculty members in the program after you've submitted your application. Sorry, too many screens and I went a little click crazy there. So sorry, everyone. Um, just to be transparent with everyone as far as admission consideration. So we're looking for individuals that have earned an undergraduate degree. We encourage individuals that have a background in STEM, but please know that that is not a requirement. The base requirement is that you have completed an undergraduate degree. And if you have a backing in any type of STEM fieldwork, STEM courses, that's great. But again, know that that is not a set requirement that you have to have, a bachelor's degree in engineering as an example, or anything of that sort. U.S. citizenship is required. And again, just being prepared to be a full-time residential student at our campus in Baltimore, Maryland. As far as tuition and fees go, so you'll see here listed the overall cost of attendance as a student. But as I mentioned previously, and I'm going to kind of skim over this slide because I think the next one is even more important, because this program is rather unique compared to many of our other academic offerings because of the contractual agreement that students enter upon joining this program. Again, there is a pledge essentially from the Baltimore City School District, from Hopkins, from a number of different funders, including the Noyce grant. There's a number of financial supporters that are benefiting you as a student through this program. So essentially, with that contractual agreement that you are saying, yes, I'm interested in this program, the 5-year commitment to both be a student at Hopkins and teach in the Baltimore City School District, the cost of tuition and fees are essentially covered for you if you are agreeing to that time commitment and those requirements. Along with that financial commitment to tuition and fees, for the first year, there's also, as you can see on the screen, a $10,000 stipend that is paid out to students for living expenses. That is given to you for the first year. And then years 2 through 5, you are contractually hired by the Baltimore City School District. So you are receiving a paycheck as a teacher from the Baltimore City School District for years 2 through 5. So that $10,000 scholarship is essentially in place just for the first year until you get through that academic component with us as a JHU student. So that essentially kind of covers the cost and also the financial component to this program. And again, this is structured very differently from anything else that we offer at Hopkins at the School of Education. And I know that I shared a lot of information with you all, but again, the focus is how can we best financially support students through this program? So for your commitment, there is that financial support that's offered through all of those sources that I mentioned previously. Outside of that specific support for this program as a Teaching Well student, at large, overall, the School of Education does offer institutional scholarships. We promote external scholarships, and there's a number of different funding opportunities as well that you can also look into on top of what I've already mentioned. Again, this program is essentially we've received grant money from the Noyce Foundation. So there's a Noyce scholarship for students. I always encourage students to look at some of the external scholarships that we have listed on our website. I think probably the largest is the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. That's another phenomenal opportunity if you're looking for other funding sources as well. And of course, we always encourage every student, if you were able to do so, please be sure to fill out a FAFSA. That's the free application for federal student aid. It is not a requirement, but we strongly encourage you to do so if you were able to fill out a FAFSA. I've been talking for a lot. I do see that a question came in. So let's see. Is the tuition completely covered or only a part? So great question, Ava. Again, essentially for that 5-year contractual agreement, for you saying, yes, I'm interested in the 5-year agreement for the first year, be a Hopkins student, and then the next 4 years to teach in the Baltimore City School District. For that 5-year contractual agreement, your cost of attendance, tuition, fees essentially is covered by those funding sources that I had mentioned. So that covers your entirety of tuition and fees through those different funding sources for your agreement to participate in that essentially 5-year agreement overall. Hopefully I did an all right job of trying to explain that. Again, I know that there's a number of important factors and moving pieces with all of that, but yes, your full tuition and fees are covered as long as you are agreeing for that 5-year commitment to both us and the Baltimore City School District to teach after you finished that first year in the program. So great question, Ava, and please, if anyone else has any other questions, please feel free to put those in the Q&A. In the theme of staying connected, you'll see that there is a QR code on the screen, as well as the contact information for the Office of Admission. That email address that you see listed there goes directly to me. As I said from the start, I am the point of contact for the Teaching Well program. So feel free, if you have any questions, you can send an email to that email address that goes directly to me, and I'm happy to connect. The QR code will take you to a website where we've placed a number of different resources for the Teaching Well program. So if you have your phone handy, feel free to utilize that QR code now. If not, again, in that follow-up email tomorrow, I'll be sure to send the URL to everybody to also be able to access that website with just some general Teaching Well resources that are available to you. Again, open to question and answer. So please feel free to post anything in the Q&A that comes to mind, anything you're curious about, interested in. And I cannot say enough how both Dr. Hollick, myself, and everybody on our team are here to support you every step of the way. You are never, ever going through this process alone, and we look forward to continuing to connect with you after today is over. Great question, Brandy. What's the application deadline? Sorry, that would have been good information that I should have shared earlier. Sorry about that. Application deadline for summer 2024 is April 30th. So you have until April 30th to get your application submitted. But I would encourage you, don't wait until April 30th. The admissions cycle, the admissions process for this program functions on a rolling process. So as soon as you have everything submitted, I should say the sooner you get everything in and submitted, the sooner you'll be evaluated to be able to move on to the next steps in the enrollment process. So April 30th is the deadline, but please don't feel that you have to wait or delay. You could get that process started now and move things along to jump into those next steps. So great question. Oh, there's even more questions. This is exciting. Awesome. Let's see. Ava, are the internships for fall and spring at the same time that school and classes are taking place, or are they different? Dr. Hollick, do you want to take that one?
Yeah, that's great. So the internship, Ava, I'm assuming, James, do you mind if we can see them if they want to turn their videos on? Sometimes it's just hard to talk to people with the PowerPoint up. I'm really thinking I promise you guys we'll end up while James is doing that. When you say internships, Ava, I think you mean student teaching. If that's not what you mean, feel free to, when James gives us all permission to join each other, feel free to share what I'm not understanding. But if you do mean student teaching, then they are all at the same at the same time. So and I might not be even understanding it, so I just want to make sure I'm right. It's like student teaching happens at the same time that you're taking classes. And it's all up. I want to make sure I'm answering your question. I'm going to go to Brandy's, and then Ava, if you either type something in or want to come on and chat with me, chat with us, feel free. Brandy asked about cohorts. We're trying to keep it pretty small. So one of the benefits of being fully funded is that we can choose how big and how small to make it. And the other benefit is that we can make a cohort model where we ask and expect the group of you don't have to become best friends. That's never an automatic understanding, but to be able to have you all working together to see kind of your growth and help each other and support each other through the process. So it's really small. So we're keeping it sub 15. And again, that's just to make sure that we feel really confident that we can give the support that we want to give and that we've seen happen. If you've done any research or if you're interested in doing research on teacher prep programs, it's a lot of research that shows that when you work with a local district, keeping it small and concentrated so that there's a lot of relational overlap makes for a much stronger teacher start. That's a great question, Brandy. And Ava, if I didn't ask correctly, let me know. Answer correctly, let me know.
And I, just as a heads up, I promoted everybody to a panelist, so you should be able to turn on your video, use your microphone. If you'd, we would love, as Dr. Hollick said, we'd love to have a conversation. So feel free to turn on your camera, microphone, and we'd love to chat with you as opposed to just utilizing the text function in the Q&A.
And we know that you didn't anticipate necessarily doing that. And I totally put James on the spot to alter the presentation. I'm sorry. Sometimes it's nice
No
to
worries.
see people when it's available. Hey, Ava. You're the camera I can see, so that's what I'm saying. But
Yeah, so I didn't hear some of your answer, but I'm not sure. But my question was about so when we're student teaching, are we at the same school both semesters, or do we go to two different schools?
Oh, that is such a great question. Actually, it's kind of district dependent. So the program is written to have two different experiences with the intent to diversify your experience and exposure to communities. So for example, you might be on the north side in Baltimore on north side in a more monoculture space. In the second semester, you might be on the south side where there's a much larger diversity of backgrounds and like newness to Baltimore, especially. So it varies. The district sometimes gets final say on those pieces, but the program is written with the intent that you would have two separate exposures. Does that help, Ava? Yeah, that is a really smart question. Thanks for asking.
And yeah, feel free now that everybody has that functionality, feel free to just unmute and ask us any questions that come to mind. You don't have to type them in the chat.
Yeah.
Brandy, did I see you raise your hand, or was that an accident by chance?
I had a quick question.
Yeah.
Sorry, I'm taking this call in my car, so I will not have my camera on for now. But I was just curious about years 2 through 5 of the program. I think I read online that we would be at a JHU partner school. I was wondering, is that just, I don't know, is there a specific list of middle schools and high schools in Baltimore City that we would work at, or is it just any of the cities, and I guess any of the schools? And I think I was just curious if there was a matching process or if it was more based on need at the schools.
Yeah, this is a terrific, insightful question, Jocelyn. So there is not a list because it changes year to year depending on the principal and the school kind of support structures. All the different mentoring requirements that this program has may not be able to maintain at the same school every year. And then sometimes it doesn't fit right? That said, there will be a series of kind of questions and agreements that Hopkins and the school are going to ask themselves and then agree to do. And that's what we mean by partner. So there will be kind of a formalized partnership agreement between the two institutions, just to ensure that the school, yes, we want you to have an authentic experience in Baltimore City, but we want you to have a highly supported, authentic experience in Baltimore City. And so there are some minimum requirements of staffing and community support for the school that will make sense to have student teachers there. So there is not a formalized list because it can change. And then finally, there is matching. So it makes a lot of sense when there's interest from a teacher, because we're asking you to be there for so long. So one of the things that's really important to note is that your student teaching experience is not likely to be your like job placement school. So it's not impossible, but it's much more likely that we will be supporting you to be hired at a school that fits your space. So for example, you might be in your student teaching experience, you might do a high school biology class and a middle school physical science class. And that would give you a wide range of kind of K6 through 12, or 7 through 12, which is the secondary, and then 6 through 8, which is the middle school certification. So that would give you a wide breadth in that STEM space. But you may say to yourself, actually, either my background or my inclination or my proclivity is for X students in X position, math, algebra for ninth graders in secondary. And so when we get to that point, once you've submitted kind of your certification paperwork, that we would start working with you and principals while you're in your student teaching experience to find a space that fits you best, because that's your job. So the way that the 5 years looks is like we are you're in our program for 4 years after making the master's degree, and that's true, but you are going to be employed by the district. So it is a real job. The principal will have to hire you. So it is much more about matching. And so we will spend time kind of coaching you. The city has what they call targeted job fairs. And so the city will invite us to certain ones, and then we will have interviews and conversations with principals to help you get placed and hired at a school that fits your space, right?
Yeah, thank you. That was really helpful.
Yeah, good, great.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Hollick. We got a question in the chat. I'm not yet holding citizenship and asking about qualification. Sadly, at this point in time, you do have to hold U.S. citizenship to be eligible for this program. That potentially could change in the future, but as things currently stand, you do have to hold U.S. citizenship for this program. So I would say stay connected with us moving forward. Keep an eye on the webpage. Feel free to reach out as semesters move forward to see if that requirement does change. But yeah, sadly, as of right now, you do have to be a U.S. citizen to enroll in this program.
Yeah, and just to be perfectly clear, that has everything to do with the way that F1 visas work and how work visas are issued. So our hands are really tied, not having anything to do with, international student support and et cetera, but having everything to do with the actual logistics. One person explained it to me that you'd come for the schooling part of it and have to go back to a home country to be able to qualify for the work visa part of it to come back. So it's just right now, we have not figured out the logistics to make that worth a student's journey and with the amount of navigating that could happen there. So do stay tuned, because we are actively pursuing it, knowing how many international students that we have at Hopkins who we love to support and develop, especially those who want to make their home here in Baltimore. So do stay in touch with us.
Can I jump in with a question?
Yeah, Brandy, great. Yeah.
So I have a background in biology, microbiology, and I feel like I'm called to teach math. Is that like a
totally possible? Yeah.
And
so
how do your classes do of the content there?
Yeah, so the primary workhorse courses are content courses. So even if you had a background in biology, there is no assumption, and I should say this, even with your background in biology, and if you had a desire to teach biology, there's no assumption that you actually know what biology looks like in a K-12 classroom, or in this case, a middle school, high school classroom. So you have to take pedagogy classes. So there is, which is one of the reasons why when we wrote this program, this is like in the weeds a little bit, but I think maybe helps some context. When we wrote the program, there are two routes that programs like this can go. You can become a traditional certifier. The university, you take classes, we check a box, we submit it, and it all meets all the state requirements. In our case, we actually went the route of becoming an alternative pathway, which ends up in the same place, same certification ending, but the pathway we can designate more strategically, because we actually over the years have seen a lot of people have to get out of the teacher prep space because they don't have enough undergrad credits to justify the certification area. And so we said to ourselves, like, what would we want? Somebody who could learn the content and is really interested in being called to teaching, as you say, or like somebody who spent 4 years in one content area. And we just didn't see necessarily the research behind a major being the content. So but let me just say, content is a really hard concept to teach without a lot of mentoring and coaching. And so that was the sister agreement that we made, was if we are going to say it's okay that they don't have an undergrad in, for your case, math, then we say we have to mentor and coach them, because teaching is a very nuanced and practiced skill. And to be able to do it with heavy coaching will allow you to be a much better math teacher in your case. Does that make sense, Brandy?
Yeah, thank you so much.
Yeah. If after this call, any one of you would like to have a chat with James about admissions, with Sean about alums, or other people who have gone through SOE and wanted to talk about their experience, or me or Mary Ellen, who's the department chair and program lead, we are more than happy. Please don't ever assume that it would be burdensome or complicated, or I know sometimes the age differential can just get in the spaces of like, I'm not sure if I'm going to ask the right question. Just know that we are completely open. Our number one goal is to get people who want to be teachers to be able to be teachers. And that's what we want to do. We want to bring folks together to train and support them to help the kids and communities here in Baltimore, where we've kind of dedicated our time and energy. So don't hesitate to reach out for any reason. And whether it's a phone call or a Zoom call or just an email exchange, all of us are happy to be supportive of your questions.
I cannot second that enough. I look forward to continuing conversations with all of you. Keep an eye on your email. Again, I'll be reaching out within the next day or so to look to reconnect. And if you're interested, like I said, I'd love to schedule a time to meet one-on-one. Just as a reminder, next Tuesday, it's February 6th. Don't remember what day it'll be. Tuesday. February 6th is our in-person event. So if you are local to Baltimore, it will be taking place at the JHU campus in our Imagine Center that Dr. Hollick had mentioned, had referenced earlier. We would love to reconnect with you in person on campus February 6th. And again, just please stay connected moving forward. You are never, ever, ever going through this process alone, and we look forward to supporting you every single step of the way. Thank you, everyone, for being here with us tonight. Have a great rest of your evening, and we look forward to chatting again soon. Take care, everyone.
Bye, everybody.